about mobile users. You can talk about, as I said, what you want to think about as you're planning your mobile user onboarding. You want to talk about the process of onboarding. We're going to talk about best practices, IP pools, things like that. So the prerequisites for, or the things you got to have in place before you do Prisma access for mobile users is, well, you got to have the correct license. And we have different licensing models that either do or do not include mobile users. We have some licensing models that include mobile users in multiple regions, or you can kind of think of it as a region as roughly as a continent. And we have some that are localized to one region, like North America or Europe or Asia or that sort of thing. You also need Cortex Data Lake. Well, you need that for any sort of deployment of Prisma access. That's nothing new. And it's very likely you're going to need a service connection and a corporate access node. If your mobile users need to access a data center with an authentication server, authentication service, MultiFactor or whatever the case may be, they need a way to get in there back to that data center to authenticate. Let's say they're using MultiFactor or LDAP or something. Also, perhaps there's other internal services that they need that exist in a data center, whether it's a physical building and physical servers, or whether you're talking about up in the cloud. Maybe DNS resolution for internal sites, that sort of thing. So the way that a mobile user could get back to a data center and be able to authenticate themselves or use whatever internal service they need is through a service connection. Service connection terminates to a corporate access node. We covered that a little bit in our last webinar, and you can view those on YouTube and also on for partners on the partner site. You can get to them on Panapto. Also, you need a portal name. So your mobile users are going to connect to a portal. That's going to be their initial connection. They're going to authenticate. And that portal needs a name. We have our own portal top level domain, gpcloudservice.com. Not services, it's just singular. And then they can make it, whatever their company is. It could be like mycompany.gpcloudservice.com, or you may have a customer, or you may be a customer that has your own domain, like company.com. So maybe you'll name your portal portal.company.com. You'll need to authenticate your users. How are you going to authenticate them? Well, basically any way you want to is the answer. We support many authentication methods. We'll talk about those in a moment. Also locations. So the whole idea of Prisma access for mobile users is that you want your users to be able to connect into Prisma access as close to where they are. You're not licensed for the number of gateways or on-ramps for Prisma access. You're licensed for the number of users. And by the way, that's the number of users, not devices. So if I connect with my laptop, my workstation, and my phone, and my tablet, and I have the same login, I'm one user. even though I got 5 devices. So we charge you by unique users based upon their usernames. So the idea is just need to authenticate these users. Well, they can be authenticated locally. They can use some sort of remote authentication, whatever the case may be. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But my point was that you want to have these locations for people to get in, these gateways, these on-ramps for folks to get into Prisma Access, located close to where your users are. And since you're not charged by the number of locations you use as many as you need and get them as close to your users as possible. Whether we're talking about a global, worldwide, or local licensing, in other words, one single region. Also, you want to have at least 2 locations. Even if every mobile user you have is sitting in one city, one place in the world, you also want to have a secondary. Need the IP pools. So users are going to connect. They're going to be assigned an internal IP address. They're going to basically become internal users, just like they were when they were back in the office. And so you need IP pools and with internal IP addresses. And of course, you want those to be unique. You don't want overlapping IP addresses. IP conflicts are bad things. You need to consider internal DNS resolution. Do you need it? Or are you going to be using internet-based DNS servers? If you need internal domains and access to internal DNS servers, we're back to those service connections again. Whether you want your users to select where they connect manually or automatically, and the default is automatically. We get them to the closest one. Also, connection methods. There's a few different connection methods. The ability for users to launch their Global Protect app whenever they need to connect and explicitly click through the connection. Or there's a couple of automatic ones with user logon and pre-logon, where basically with user logon, whenever a user logs on to a device, like if I open my laptop and log in, I automatically connect to the mobile user solution using my Global Protect client. Pre-logon actually would connect my device before I logged in, and we would use a certificate on the device to identify it as a corporate device, so that it can connect and be the device can be authenticated. And then once I log in, well, it authenticates me. Want to make sure you have your licenses correct. As I said, you're licensed on numbers of users, unique users. We measure that over a 90-day period. And you can sort of guess as you start, and we'll true things up as things mature. There's a question about licensing and that whole 90-day unique users over a 90-day period. Why? Well, we have to base on something, right? Do you want to? It would not be fair to base it off of the number of devices or the number of times users connect, or the number of unique users in the total history of your deployment. So this is what we came up as with a fair, what we thought is a fair assessment. If you need service connections, you need to be able to access DNS servers or internal domains or authentication services, things like that, then you need to make sure those are set up. We covered those in the last session. Basically, we create a node, we call it a corporate access node, up in the cloud, close to your data center, and you create a VPN tunnel, an IPsec tunnel, down to some device in that data center, or up in the cloud to some device in that data center that can terminate an IPsec tunnel. We have some pre-configured settings and things like that to help make that easy to do. But chances are pretty good that you need that you will be needing service connections. So for our mobile user solution and our enterprise solution that covers both mobile users and remote networks, we include them. Somebody talked about domains. Yeah, you can use wildcards in domains to the extent that you can do things like here we've got star.mycompany.com, meaning any request for anything mycompany.com would be sent to, in this case, my internal DNS server at this IP address, and this IP address would be at the other end of that IPsec tunnel in that data center. Also, we by default run the latest, greatest Global Protect client that your users are able to download either directly from our portal, and we'll show you that in a minute, or can be deployed as part of a GPO for your Mac, for your internal users. It could be or managed devices. The users could download it from the website, from Palo Alto Networks. Users can download it for their mobile devices on Google Play and the App Store. There's even a Linux version. But in any case, we use the latest, greatest one by default. If you have customers or your customers or you have users that are using maybe a older iteration of the Global Protect app, there's great forwards and backwards compatibility. This gives you the ability and we give you the ability to choose to match whatever version other people are already running. So you don't have to worry about supporting two different versions or one version going out of compatibility versus another one. Make sure everybody's running the same thing, right? It's just easier. Mobile user authentication. Again, for a mobile user to be able to connect to Global Protect, to the mobile user solution, they need to authenticate, whether it's local authentication, where you are we're using a local user password database on these different mobile user solutions, or there's some sort of remote authentication like Radius or LDAP or MultiFactor. We support many MultiFactor, SAML, that sort of thing. It needs to be set up. One little trick or best practice I would suggest is, as you're building up your deployment with Prisma Access for mobile users, is you do create, even if you're not going to use local authentication, create one test user, one user locally. it just helps simplify troubleshooting. If you are working with remote authentication and multi-factor authentication and deploying all these gateways and your portal and all these things, or mobile, mobile user security processing nodes, SPNs. Sometimes it's hard to determine where things fail if something breaks. Well, if I can eliminate the remote authentication piece and everything works, and then when I add my multi-factor or remote authentication piece and it no longer works, I know what to troubleshoot. So I can just focus my energies better. Somebody asked if it's possible to have different Global Protect client versions on different for different users. It is. I don't know that I would suggest you do that, because you could have some people that fall out of compatibility when other people are still compatible. So it's something you'd have to keep an extra eye on. It's certainly possible. It's not going to break it. It's not going to hurt anything, but consistency is always a nice thing, right? If you're doing any sort of non-local authentication, in other words, going back to an LDAP server or Radius server, doing some sort of SAML or multi-factor or what have you, you're going to need server profiles to tell us where to go when users need to authenticate. We have different server profile types, and you gotta set that up. If you're going to do any sort of multi-factor authentication or things like that, any sort of authentication process for your mobile users, you got to create an authentication profile that ties us back to that server, that tells us how we want to authenticate our users. So it's the authentication profile that ties that all up. All right, so we've sort of run through the prerequisites. Why don't we take a look at deploying this stuff? What I'd like to do is switch over to a device and just show you on the device. I think it's more interesting, more fun than just looking at slides. So 1 second, let me do that. Bear with me for just a moment. Okay, so in these webinars, in our little discussions, we always assume you're using Panorama because the very vast majority of our customers do. There's a cloud managed solution also that's available. Maybe you use it. Maybe you have customers that use it. I'll be honest, not many of you do, but maybe some of you do. So we're all doing things from the Panorama point of view, and there's advantages for existing Palo Alto Networks customers to use Panorama. Things like easily being able to duplicate security policy rules from physical firewalls onto Prisma access nodes, things like that. So we're also going to use this from as our manager, as our configurator. So interesting thing about Panorama, when we go down to our cloud services and we get into our status and configuration screens, first of all, in the status screen, you can all see the status of your different connections, your different connection types. It's going to give you some good information. We kind of went over a little bit of viewing that information and troubleshooting that information the other day at our last one. We're going to be concentrating on our mobile user solution here. And the status lights give you a really fast indicator as to how things are looking. There's also the ability to look at the network details tab up here at the top, and you go to your mobile users. And you're able to see portals and gateways and IP pools and all of your configuration information. Make sure that that meets your requirements. So as you're deploying your mobile user solution, you would go to the configuration part. And in this case, we're going to go to the mobile users global protect. There's this other thing, mobile users explicit proxy, which you may or may not have licensed. This is our secure web gateway. It's a topic for another time. We're going to be concentrating on our mobile users sitting at home, sitting in an airport, that sort of thing right now. So we'll click on that. A few things you got to do. Initially, you have to choose a parent device group. In other words, where am I sticking the device groups that they're going to be created automatically for my mobile users, and any sort of templates that I may want to add to my template stack for mobile users. You also need to map or create zones that represent the outside world, the internet, versus internal stuff. So a user connected to Prisma Access is considered an internal user. If they're talking to, say, a user in a branch office or remote network or whatever, it's internal, it's all internalized. So you need a trusted and untrusted zone. You can have as many as you want, but you need at least one on each side. And where do you create those? Those that are familiar with our firewalls, even if you're not that familiar with Prisma Access, hey, under the network tab, we go to zones. We create some zones. These zones will be used in our security policy rules. It is possible to take existing templates with zone names and existing security policy rules and copy those into Prisma Access. In fact, that's a really cool advantage that Panorama gives us. So let's go back here. Then the next thing we have to do is configure a portal. The portal can use either our domain, and then you have to come up with a unique host name, or you have the ability to use your company's or customers' existing domain for that too. Next, you'll choose locations where you want to put everything. So we have a nice little map here. You can click on the different regions. Depending on your licensing, you may exist in 2 or more regions, which would be global licensing, or one single region. Within each region, there's going to be these different locations, and this is where we're going to put our global protect gateways. Actually, the first place you click is where the portal ends up being, and you need one portal in the entire world. You don't need more than one. It's, in fact, I would not suggest you have more than one. But you want to put your locations near where your users are. So, let's say I got users in New York and San Francisco. Well, I want to put I want my locations to be close to them. If I had users in Texas, well, I can add another location there. I have users down in Mexico City, I can add them down there. Idea is choose as many locations as you need, as you want, close to your users. The closer, the better. Doesn't matter if you got 1,000,000 users or 10 users in these locations. We will automatically scale up to match what you need as far as resources. Next thing you'll do is pick IP pools. So as I said, the users that join, your mobile users that join Prisma Access, they're going to be handed out an internal IP address. You need IP pools for this. The smallest IP pool we would suggest is a /23. Basically 2/24s, right? How many addresses do you need? More than you might realize. So we used the example of me earlier. I said, I got my laptop, I got my my mobile phone, I got my tablet, I got my big computer. Maybe I've got other devices. I can have 4 or 5 devices connected. It means I need 4 or 5 addresses. Also, the lease time on these IP addresses by default is it's a rather long period of time. I believe it's 12 hours, maybe 24. So it could be that I connect today and connect tomorrow, connect 3 weeks from now. I may be doubling up on addresses that have been handed out to me from these IP pools. So consider that. Good rule of thumb: 5 to 10 addresses per mobile user probably be sufficient. So if I got 10,000 mobile users, probably need to think about having an IP pool that will support 50 to 100,000 addresses. These IP addresses need to be unique within your internal infrastructure. You don't want IP conflicts. If you need to point people to, say, internal DNS servers and stuff like that, this is where you do that under network services. By default, users connect manually to automatically to the closest available gateway if you have multiple gateways, but you can choose to set some gateways that could be chosen manually if you want to do that. Oops. If we now do support IPv6, you got to enable it if you want us to use that for addressing and stuff like that. And we now support being able to exclude video traffic from tunnels. For our physical model of Global Protect on physical firewalls, we used to use that or split tunneling, which we still support. A lot of customers would, saying, hey, you know what, if I got a user sitting in their hotel room watching Netflix and they're connected through Global Protect, I don't really want them chewing up all my bandwidth. I'll make them go directly out to the internet and not use the Global Protect tunnel. With Prisma Access, you don't care about the amount of bandwidth. We've got to support it. You're buying a number of users, and if you got one user that's using a huge chunk of bandwidth and another one that's not using a huge chunk of bandwidth, hey, you charge the same for them. So you may not want to, that this may not be a big thing, but it could be a performance thing, for streaming video and stuff like that. So we give you the option to do that. Then what you do need to do is set up your Global Protect portal information. There's really not a whole lot to do here. There's some login pages you could present. They're turned off by default. The authentication that we talked about, whether it's local or remote, that goes into the portal. Users are authenticated at the portal when they log in. Any sort of information that you might want to collect for devices that are connecting. Hey, what's the operating system? What's the, are they using antivirus? When was the last time they updated it? What OS version are they using? We have them for both Windows and Macs. There's agent settings that allow us to do things such as making different rules for different operating systems. Under the apps here, there's a lot of settings. They're default settings, but things like the connection methods. We talked about the manual connection. We talked about the on-demand. We talked about the always connected. You can choose that here. Do we want to allow people to manually disconnect from Global Protect, or do we want to keep them logged in? Do we want to give them that ability or not? There's lots of other settings here. There are defaults that are popular settings, but you can also deviate from those. We do support a clientless VPN for mobile users, where you basically would just publish out any sort of application that's browser based, and users can connect with their browser instead of using the Global Protect client. There are limitations on the amount of bandwidth and stuff like that that are available for that. You need to read about that if you're considering it. And then your gateways. So users connect to a portal. Actually, we'll take a quick look at that. Users connect to a portal, and with their device, and the portal authenticates them and sends all those different settings we just talked about. Hey, do you get to connect and disconnect manually or on demand, or do we require you to always be connected, or what are your settings? Those are called client configs, and those get set to the client. Then the client disconnects from the portal, and if they have multiple gateways they can connect to, they connect to the closest available one. How do they know that? Well, they send out an SSL hello to all the gateways, and whoever answers first is the one that we use. So let's go back to the configuration. So those gateways, we have very few settings you need to configure here. Most everything is pre-configured. Authentication is one thing. You're going to authenticate at the gateway also. About the only agent setting is whether you want people to use IPsec tunnels or SSL tunnels. That's about it. Everything else has already been configured. Then you would do your commit and push. It's always best to edit your selections and choose what you want to do. Like right now, I'm just doing mobile users. I would not want to send a bunch of different categories at the same time, so I'll just send my mobile users. You deploy this, it takes time. It could take an hour or so for the portal to come up, and a similar amount of time for gateways. Gateways come up a little bit quicker, but they do take a little bit of time. How do you tell how things are going? Well, if we go back to the status, we have a couple of things we can do. When everything is up and running, we have the ability to see the status. There's a deployment status, which will be yellow as is building, turn red if there's an issue, turn green if it's okay. There's a config status. That is configuration synchronization. Is everything you stuck on that you've configured through Panorama been pushed to your devices yet? Or are there pending things? So if config status is red, means you got stuff you haven't pushed up there yet. And then the overall status up at the top. You can also see how many current users you got and how many you've had over the last 2 days or last 90 days, 2 in this case. Now the gateways are where users are able to do some things. Is where we can impose security. That's why they're called, we call our mobile user SPNs, security processing nodes. That's where we can do security processing. So you can have security policy rules that may exist from on other devices. Let me see, we may have some here. Okay. One, you can create them just exclusively for your mobile users. Here's some. So we've got some of these that are in yellow. These are ones that are on different devices or in different device groups, I should say. And then we have some ones in white. Those are ones that are specific to this group here, this device group, which is my mobile user device group, which is automatically created when I deploy Prisma Access. So you can blend these rules. If you got a bunch of different zone names, then you need to make sure that as you're configuring those and bringing up your mobile users, that you do list those different zones, and you either stick them on the untrusted side or the trusted side. Either they're part of Prisma Access or they're not. They're out on the internet. Once everything's up and running, and if anything goes wrong, under the map view, you can see any problems. You can click on the little errors and get more detailed uses. But as long as everything's okay and everything's up, you'll be able to see your users logging in and out of Global Protect under the Global Protect logs, which are under the Monitor tab. Also, under the ACC tab, we have now a Global Protect Activity tab, a relatively new tab that gives you overall statistics and overall health, as well as details for your mobile users. one thing that's really important when it comes to Prisma access, whether it's the remote networks or what have you, is logs are always stored in Cortex Data Lake. You got to remember in your security policy rules that you add a log forwarding profile to do that, or else your logs don't get set to Cortex Data Lake, and that's the only place you can view them. It's not like you can log on to a Global Protect mobile user security processing node and look at the logs on that. You don't have access to that. So it's really important that in your security policies, rules, that you add a log forwarding profile, you create under objects and you add it here. One trick you can do is you can also call it default, the lowercase d, D-E-F-A-U-L-T. Sorry about my handwriting. I'm writing with my finger on a screen here, so it doesn't look too good, but you get the idea. If you create one named default, treat it as the default one. So we add it to every new security policy rule you write. We don't add it to the existing ones, but we add it to new ones. If you give it a unique name like we did here, well, then you got to make sure you add it manually. But you gotta do that, or you won't have any traffic logs, threat logs, URL filtering logs, wildfire log, any of the logs. If they don't get forwarded to Cortex Data Lake, you can't read them. Panorama goes there to read them, and if they're not there, you see nothing. So that's another really important thing. So those would be the steps, and I think a couple of hints and best practices and things like that for deploying Prisma access for mobile users. There are a few questions that I answered as we went through, but some outstanding ones. So why don't I take a look at what we've got.